Hey guys, here we are with my post-fight thoughts of Kell Brook versus Errol Spence versus Kell Brook. Since he got the victory, his name gets to go first. What a great fight that was. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was very competitive. You know, not super surprising, right? I think a lot of people kind of predicted the end to be that way. I thought for sure if the fight was going to end, it would be Errol Spence ending the fight, and in a very similar fashion in the way that he did. Some of the things that I wanted to talk about. So, first I'll talk about round by round, and then I want to talk a little bit about the keys to victory that I posted, and how I thought they lined up with the fight. So, the first round started kind of like how I thought it would. You know, Errol Spence pressing forward, trying to establish lead foot dominance, of course, and trying to, land some big punches. Obviously, he's a puncher, and that was his goal. And Kell Brook countered him really well. I think for the first, 2 minutes of the fight, 2 minutes and 20 seconds or so, he was countering Errol Spence a lot and keeping him on the outside. I think that a lot of the counters were kind of missing as he was kind of finding his timing and his range. And then I think they tied up like once or twice. They got kind of like real close, and I think Errol Spence landed some good shots on the inside. And I think he got that round. I gave him that round off of those things. But I could see Kell Brook, since he had control of the round most of the time, being the one that edged it. But I gave that round to Spence. The second round, Errol Spence came out, and kind of how I thought it was going to happen. He wasn't able to establish lead foot dominance to set up his punches, so he started to have to try to make an adjustment. And Errol was kind of trying to catch him coming in, but Kell Brook was just a little bit too fast, and Errol Spence couldn't find his timing for that round. And I think that the first round was close, but the second round, I think Kell Brook kind of dominated it. Not close. The same with the third round. I gave the third round to Kell Brook as well. I thought that he also, I didn't think that round was particularly close either. It was a lot of the same. Errol Spence not really able to set up his punches, and Kell Brook was doing a good job of closing the distance after he'd throw punches. And Errol Spence wasn't really able to land punches on the inside. There wasn't exactly a lot of clinching, I don't think, but he was doing a good job of stopping Errol Spence from fighting on the inside, and that's where Errol Spence does, basically his best work. The fourth round, I thought was, I don't think it was actually close. I gave that round to Spence. I think Spence started to change his tactics. He kind of realized he wasn't going to get lead foot dominance, and he started baiting counters, which is one of the keys to victories that I had for him, because Kell Brook loves to counter. He's very predictable in that manner. And Errol Spence started baiting them. I'm not sure how many times he actually landed off of the baits, but he was giving Kell Brook pause and kind of slowing down his offense a little bit, because Kell Brook started to have to worry about that. I think that he wound up fighting on the inside a little better that round. He started getting his distance on the inside and finding ways to create space when Kell Brook would close the distance on him. And he started winning that round. So I gave the fourth round to him. The fifth round, I thought that Brook won the fifth round too. I think that Errol Spence was kind of emboldened by winning the fourth round pretty clearly. And I think he started moving forward, trying to... and I'm sorry that there's no video of this. I don't want the video to get taken down. I have the video. I have the full fight. But it's not in good enough quality to do film study on. But as you can see right here... Oh, whoops. See, I got the fight, but I'm not going to play it. I don't want to... They'll probably take my video down just for that. But anyway, the fifth round, I think that Spence was a little emboldened by winning the fourth round, and he started going out kind of strong and trying to land his land his offense again. I think he started trying to lead a little more, if I'm remembering correctly. I have watched the fight twice live, which is extremely unreliable because the first time you watch it, you're just the whole time you're on pins and needles. Oh, is this going to, it was really exciting. My God, I was so excited. Spence started coming out, trying to lead, and I think he was getting countered a little bit. The counters weren't super big shots, but they were enough to slow Spence down. And then because he was still trying to move forward and he wasn't pressing as hard, he was also getting picked off by shots from Brook. One thing I do want to talk about actually in the second round, and this was really interesting. This was one of the reasons why I thought that Brook was going to be able to win the fight. Before we get back to the sixth round. In the second round, you kind of noticed how gun-shy Errol Spence was. He didn't like to punch exactly when he was being punched at, right? And this was a huge play for the fight. And this is kind of what I said in my keys to victory. We'll talk about it again later. Sorry, I don't want to get carried away. I'll just get back to the round. Fifth round, I thought Kell Brook won it pretty clearly. So we're going to move on to the sixth round. The sixth round I gave to Spence. He started doing some interesting things in this round. He was baiting the counters. He stopped trying to lead and stopped trying to gain lead foot dominance, and he was just putting pressure and trying to kind of get Kell Brook to the ropes. He wasn't punching when he was moving forward, but he was pressing forward to try to get Kell Brook to lead so that he could counter Kell Brook. And not like exactly like a counter puncher would, but like a catch and counter, like Emmanuel Stewart. And in this round, he actually started, like I said, he started eating the shots. When Kell Brook would come in, try to have that Floyd Mayweather style, he would eat that punch. Or Kell Brook would try to throw one punch and then clinch or slide out or do something. But his movement wasn't good enough. It wasn't fast enough to stop him from taking return fire. And sometimes Errol Spence would catch the punch, and sometimes he would just eat the punch. He likes brownies apparently. But the important thing was that after he would get hit or he would block, he would throw combination punches. And he was just so much better on the inside in the sixth round than Kell Brook was. He landed much better offense because of it. And he did a good job. He did some things that I haven't seen him do in his previous fights. The catching and countering and stuff. I did know that he could eat a punch and then punch after. That's one of those amateur skills that you learn in the amateurs when you're competing, to make sure that you're always the last one to land so that you get the most amount of credit for the shots. But yeah, it's a weird scoring system. If you've ever competed in the amateurs, it's really weird. But the seventh round was really weird because Kell Brook was pushing forward. Like, he controlled the round. Like, he was the ring general. But he didn't have any, really effective aggression, right? Errol Spence was the one that was outlanding him. Because, again, he was eating those shots. When he would take a shot, when he would take it, he would come back and he would eat at those holes that Kell Brook showed when Kell Brook would lead with the right hand or whatever. But Errol Spence wasn't really relying on lead foot dominance to establish his offense. He was relying on the holes that Kell Brook would leave open after he would punch. So he was catching and countering again, letting Kell Brook lead. Sometimes he would take the lead and land some punches. But Errol Spence showed that he had a really good game plan for this fight for sure. I gave the seventh round to Spence. So I've got it 4 rounds to 3 for Spence. But I could see how that round could be given to Brook. Like hometown decision kind of round. So the only swing rounds that I have so far were the first and the seventh. Although when I rewatched the 5th round, I don't know if it was because I was not paying attention to scoring or I was looking for strategy or whatever, but I couldn't find a great reason to give the 5th round to Brook. Even though I did give it to him both times, but I couldn't find like a great reason to give it to Spence either. So maybe that round was closer than I thought it was. But I have it 4 rounds to 3 going into the 8th round. And then Spence just kind of runs away with the fight after that. Specifically, eating punches and trying to catch and counter and being more busy on the inside. So it was kind of like how I predicted, Spence being, or Kell Brook being faster, but Spence being sharper and being able to punch in combination faster than Brook could, but Brook having faster individual punches. So it felt like he was in the advantage when they were at range, but as soon as they got close, Spence would just pull ahead. He would be landing 2 and 3 punches, but Brook would have only landed that 1 shot, or the 2 shots on the way in, or no shots because Spence was catching them. Really good game plan. And then when he was putting that pressure on Kell Brook and getting him to the ropes, he wouldn't even always have to be punching. He'd be waiting for the counters or baiting the counters. And even if he'd get hit, like I said, he would just start going to the body and working on the inside. And he did a phenomenal job fighting on the inside. All things that, we already knew about Spence. But he put them all together better than I thought he was going to. And then I'll talk about keys to victory, and then I want to talk a little bit about Kell Brook's Achilles heel, I guess it is. But so the keys to victory for Spence were lead foot dominance, baiting the counter, for my videos by the way, baiting the counter, lead foot dominance, and his inside game. And he used 2 out of 3 of those. Inside game, fighting on the inside when Kell Brook would leave space, landing punches. I think I talked a little bit about it in that video about eating punches just so that he could fight on the inside, and he did do that very well. And then as well as baiting the counter. There were times where he would make Brook really pause and not want to counter him because he got the sense that he was getting countered. As far as eating the shots, there was like a really good exchange in the 7th where he jabs, Brook counters him with the right hand, and then Spence, after getting hit in the face with that left hand, or that right hand, catches him with a bigger right hand. And I was just like, man, that's just beautiful. It's a really interesting strategy, because in the amateurs, that doesn't work, right? You've got, in that particular scenario, you've got Brook landing 1 shot, and then Spence landing 1 shot, so they come out even. But it's interesting because in the professional ranks, and this is one of those things that Nonito Donaire had going for him, is that he was a good puncher, so oftentimes he would take a shot. He would take a shot so that he could give a shot, and it worked out really well for him because he was such a big counter puncher. And that's like one of the interesting things about that being in the professional rankings, is that Spence can get away with that a little more than you could in the amateurs because he's a good puncher. But it's not often like the greatest strategy, to trade punches with your opponent. But it is one of those like interesting, like, I don't want to say a skill-less wrinkle, but it's an interesting game plan to have with fighters. Now, Kell Brook's, I'm going to move to Kell Brook's keys to victory. His were the right hand, establishing the right hand and landing it. I think he did that very well. The clinch, I don't actually know what the other one was. I don't remember. I want to bring up the video, though. What was it? I guess I should have did some prep before I started this video. But yeah, I'm blanking on it. But anyway, the right hand, he was doing that. He was leading pretty well. I thought that, in the second round, he did a lot of good things. He was able to keep Spence off of him, stop him from landing, establishing lead foot dominance. Counters. That's what it was. he did a good job with the counter punching. And like the second round was exactly the kind of fight that he wanted to have for the whole fight. Obviously, right? Because he won it so hugely. But Spence made some great adjustments. The one thing that Kell Brook didn't do is clinch. He didn't clinch nearly as much as he should have, or as effectively. Spence was able to neutralize a lot of that. And even when he would get the clinch in, by then Spence had already fought, once or twice on the inside. But Brook kind of dropped the ball a little bit on his defense there. Sometimes he'd get a little lackadaisical, and when he'd be on the outside or moving away, Spence would catch him with the shot. But I wonder if, I kind of wonder if Brook was tired too. That is something that was interesting when the announcers were talking about it after the weight fluctuations or whatever. Because it didn't seem like the eye thing should have been that big of a deal to me, but I don't have a huge swollen eye, so it's easy for me to say that. But back to the keys to victory. Spence was baiting the counters. He was fighting on the inside. And even though he didn't establish lead foot dominance, like I didn't think he'd be able to against Brook. Most of the fight, he wasn't able to at all. He was able to power through a lot of the punches that Brook landed, and Brook landed some huge chocolate brownies on Spence for sure. So yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest surprise for me, was that it was an actual game plan that Spence had, was to eat the shots and then be the one to punch last. And when I talked about my official prediction video, I didn't actually think that would wind up being one of his strategies, where he would eat punches or catch and counter. I didn't think he'd do that. I thought that he would just keep pressing forward, and the fight might wind up looking like the second round the whole fight. Pins and needles, right? But heavily in Brook's favor. But Spence pulled it out. He made the adjustments. He understood that, if you were going to win, sometimes you're going to have to take punches, or you're going to have to change your strategy or whatever. And he had some good adjustments. It was a great fight. Let's see. Was there anything else? Man, I feel like I'm missing something. That's why I'm kind of stammering a little bit. But let's see. What did I say in my official prediction? Yeah, I thought that he wouldn't be able to establish lead foot dominance. He would be able to counterpunch him. He did that fairly reasonably well. And then Errol Spence, if he had any hope of winning, he'd have to just push through the counters. And yeah, that's exactly what he did. He pushed through the counters. He boxed pretty well. A little better than I thought he was going to be able to. Catching and countering, he did a really good job of those in the middle rounds. The scorecards, I think I read you my cards, right? So round 1, Spence, then 2 and 3 to Brook, 4 to Spence, 5 to Brook, 6 to Spence, 7 to Spence, but that one could go either way, I thought. Even though I think Spence landed more and better punches, but Brook had control of that round. And then Spence, and Spence. So Spence really far ahead on the cards for me. But a great fight. I'm not disappointed that I got my prediction. Well, a little bit that I got my prediction wrong, but I'm not disappointed that Spence won. He's going to come out of this probably a much, much better fighter, and that's probably the most exciting thing for me, is getting to see how he fought in this fight versus how he fought in Algeria, and then how he's going to fight in his next fight. Anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about the fight. I would do a breakdown, of the fight and what was going on in each round and stuff, but I don't want the videos to get pulled, and I've got a couple copyright strikes already, and if I get any more, they'll take my account down. So yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. It was a great fight. Thanks, guys.